Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Stormwater Program Coordinator Training. My name's Hannah Majiri. I'm the case manager for Camden, Cumberland, and Warren County. I'll start things off today, and then I'm going to hand the presentation over to some other members of our unit to continue on. Just some housekeeping. Since we are recording this, we ask that you just keep your mic muted and camera off, unless you want it on. Unless you want to be a star, then you can keep your camera on. Just wanted to let you know that it will be recorded and it will be posted on our webpage. So just be mindful of that, please. So we created this training because we've received requests for it from SPCs over the years, particularly those who are new to the role and want to make sure that they're understanding the permit requirements correctly. This training is a way to ensure that all SPCs hear the same information and have an opportunity to discuss questions and concerns. This is mandatory for all SPCs to attend once per permit cycle. So if you retire or change jobs, your successor will need to attend the next available session. As mentioned, we're recording today's session and we'll post the recording and the slides on our webpage. So we'll be there for you to review and to share with others in your stormwater program. And if you do leave your position, your successor can watch the recording to hold them over until the next live session. We'll take a couple of short breaks throughout the presentation to address some questions and comments from the chat. You can also always email us if you have any questions, or of course, reach out to your case manager. Since this training is mandatory, we will be monitoring the attendance to make sure the SPC for every highway agency has been trained. If you are calling into today's session, please use the chat function to list your name and affiliation so we know that you attended. Additionally, there will be a survey sent out after the session that will be mandatory for all attendees to complete before you can receive your certificate of course completion. So our goal for today is to explain the role of the Stormwater Program Coordinator and to describe what's expected for compliance with all permit conditions. After this, we'll give you some helpful tips about the mapping assistance we provide and the NJDEP online portal. And with any time remaining at the end, we'll open it up for a Q&A session. So we'll start with the responsibilities of the Stormwater Program Coordinator and show you some of the department's resources that we have on our website. So SPCs serve as the main point of contact in your highway agency for all things stormwater. In most cases, this job goes to the maintenance supervisor or your engineer, but some are hired through private consulting firms and may work for multiple permittees. Please be sure to let your MS4 case manager know who the SPC for your highway agency is. We send all key stormwater correspondence to the SPC, so it's important that we have the correct contact information. We'll go into more detail about each of the bullet points as we go through the presentation, but in a nutshell, this is what the SPC job entails. As the SPC, you will receive correspondence from the department regarding permit compliance issues. You may not be the one to personally do all of the stormwater work, but you are responsible for making sure things get done in a way that complies with your permit. You're responsible for making sure your highway agency is complying with the MS4 permit. Excuse me. Let's see. There we go. Stormwater pollution prevention plan. As the SPC, you will need to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, or an SP3, which is the document that details each permit requirement and explains your stormwater program. If you haven't already, you'll submit your most updated SP3 to the department, post it on your webpage, review it each year, and use it during annual employee training. Since the highway agency permit was recently renewed, we have new SP3 templates for you to use, and we'll talk about those templates a little bit later. You're also responsible for making sure that all required submissions are made to the department and the county, if necessary, on time. You'll make sure the appropriate information is posted on a dedicated stormwater webpage. You'll need to make sure that public notices and outreach opportunities are communicated properly to residents and businesses in your town. You'll also need to make sure everyone who has a role in the stormwater program gets the correct training. You must submit the annual report and the documents that get attached to it as early as January 1st, but no later than May 1st every year. And lastly, you need to keep accurate and complete records of stormwater activities. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the permit conditions, I just want to show you our MS4 webpage. Here you can find details about everything we're going to talk about today. There are links to the permits, compliance schedules, guidance on the permit conditions, fillable templates and forms, sample materials, a link to NJDEP online, the county case managers, and other related resources. When we make any significant updates or create new materials, that's going to be posted on our webpage. We'll send you a notice to the SPC and we'll post it on the webpage for you to take a look at. All right, let's get into the permit conditions now. So first, we'll talk about creating and maintaining a stormwater pollution prevention plan, or SP3. This document could be considered your stormwater manual or a how-to for staff to know what they need to do, how to do it, and when to do it. All the conditions of the MS4 permit need to be included in your SP3, where you will describe the unique details of how your highway agency is meeting the conditions. It should be thorough enough for someone to pick it up and have a pretty good idea of how to carry out operations. Highway agency permittees should already have experience in creating an SP3. When you fill it out, please don't leave anything blank. For the areas that are not yet due, please just give a high-level description of the steps you'll take to satisfy the permit condition. Then, once you actually start doing the activity, you can update that section with a more concrete description of the program you have developed. We'll be reviewing it annually, so just add it then and send a fresh copy to us whenever you make updates. The department has a template that you can work from, which you're not required to use, but it will guarantee that you cover every permit condition. It's available as a fillable PDF on our webpage. There's a new template that follows the 2025 Highway Agency permit, so please just make sure you're using the correct template. As mentioned, once it's complete, the SP3 needs to be posted on your webpage, discussed during annual training of staff, and submitted to the department via NJDEP online through the Stormwater Document Submittal Service, which we'll discuss a little bit later. The biggest tip we have is to take advantage of the template and sample SP3s on our webpage. As mentioned, we provide a fill-in-the-blank style template as well as a sample if you want to get a better idea of how we expect it to be filled out. The links here on the slide will take you to the appropriate SP3 template and sample. Roughly every 5 years, we renew the permits, so we'll update our templates and samples whenever that happens. Again, you're not required to use this, but it could be the easiest approach. If you do make your own SP3, that's fine. Just make sure you cover all the same topics with the same level of detail that we're expecting. Public involvement and participation, including public notice. Public outreach is something all highway agencies have been required to do from the beginning of the MS4 program. To comply with state and local laws regarding public notice, there are certain permit-related actions that must be announced in a way that lets your community know when important stormwater decisions are being made. Public notices are typically done by posted newspapers, social media, and permittee websites. You may also choose to send a direct email to distribute information. Dedicated stormwater webpage. Stormwater materials must be posted on a dedicated stormwater webpage on a website where the public can find all stormwater materials in one place. Some highway agencies may not have their own website, and if that's the case, then you can reach out to your case manager and request approval to post stormwater-related documents on a county or federal agency website, depending on if the highway agency is county, state, or federally owned. Not all of these need to be uploaded right away if they have a delayed due date. So, for example, infrastructure maps don't need to be posted on your website obviously until they are due. We do have a free, easy to use template and have staff in-house to provide one-on-one assistance should you need it. Some of you already use our webpage template, so you will just need to update it with the required materials. There's a link to the example webpage posted here on the slide and can also be found on our webpage. Okay, moving on to local public education and outreach. The SPC will arrange for a variety of education and outreach to the public. This is required for all permittees, not just those that operate rest areas. For highway agency permittees, we're using a 7-point system where you select at least 3 activities from the categories we describe in the permit attachment. One activity must educate on the hazards of illicit connections and improper disposal of waste. Alternative activities can also count for this requirement as long as the department approval is received prior to conducting the activity. Make sure to keep records of your activities and report them in your annual report. If you need ideas or materials, we have some on the webpage that you can use. Here are the highlights of Attachment A, the point system for public education and outreach activities. These are just some examples of activities that we offer for points. We have designated pet relief areas, promotional item giveaways, some signage, education on regulatory mechanisms, storm drain inlet, labeling campaigns, litter cleanup campaigns, etc. You can find a description of each activity as well as their associated point values in Attachment A. Construction site stormwater runoff. The SPC must ensure that all construction projects that will disturb 1 acre or more, or are part of a common plan of development that disturbs 1 acre or more, obtain a 5G3 or an individual industrial stormwater permit before starting construction. Please note that the 5G3 permit was renewed in 2022 with minor changes. It applies to the projects undertaken by the permittee, as well as private companies and individuals. Post-construction stormwater management in new development and redevelopment. This condition highlights the requirements related to stormwater management designs for major development projects. If you're the SPC but not the engineer, you won't need to know the technical details, but you do need to be familiar with the process. Engineers who review and approve major development projects must be different from those who design the projects.
Thanks.
They can
Thanks for letting
work
me
at
in.
the same firm if that's something that you outsource. But please make sure that they are different people who reviews it and who designs it. Review engineers must complete the department's stormwater management design review or SWMDR course every 5 years to stay certified. They also need to attend training on rule amendments if the department determines that training is warranted. We'll talk more about this when we get into the training section. You can check out our webpage for the list of department certified engineers to confirm the status of the engineer for your facility. The reviewer must ensure that the projects are designed in accordance with NJAC 7:8, the BMP manual, and constructed according to the approved plans. For mitigation plans, if your facility wants the ability to grant variances from the design and performance standards for your stormwater management measures, there needs to be a written mitigation plan that satisfies the criteria in the stormwater management rules. It needs to meet and identify the measures necessary to offset the deficit created by granting the variance. Each time your agency grants a variance, you need to send a report describing the variance to the department via NJDEP online within 30 days of approval. Okay, moving on to regulatory mechanisms. Regulatory mechanisms are aimed at minimizing stormwater pollution and flooding throughout the highway agency properties, not just at major development sites. The purpose of community-wide regulatory mechanisms is to have methods in place to keep pollutants out of stormwater so it doesn't make its way to streams, lakes, and other water bodies where it can contribute to harmful algal blooms, cause beach closings, and a host of other negative impacts. They help to keep the community clean by setting a standard for the public and ensure you have a way to punish those who violate these regulatory mechanisms. So we're going to go through each regulatory mechanism briefly. We're going to start with pet waste. The intent here is to get people to clean up after their pets so their waste stays out of the stormwater system and ultimately out of the watershed. And highway agencies can also use this mechanism to completely prohibit pets from being allowed on highway agency property. Wildlife feeding. The intent is to stop people from feeding wildlife, like ducks and geese, for example, to discourage them from gathering where they can leave droppings on public property that also pollute the watershed. Litter control. The intent is to keep trash, including solids, floatables, and residual pollutants, from contaminating stormwater and causing flooding due to debris clogging the MS4. You can either enforce your own regulatory mechanism here or enforce the state litter statute to meet this requirement. Improper disposal of waste. The intent is to stop people from purposefully dumping waste into the storm system. An example of this would be dumping grease, paint, motor oil, or other hazardous waste down the drain. So we do have a moment here to take a quick break. If you have any questions about what we just went over, feel free. If not, I'll probably start back up in like 2 to 3 minutes. You could use a chat function or you can unmute yourself if you have any questions. If not, just hold tight.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
So when we're talking about pet waste, and we don't in Middlesex County, we don't have rest areas like what you would find off of the Garden State Parkway or New Jersey Turnpike, where we have like designated pet waste areas. But we do have them located in some of our county parks. Is that where the pet waste factor is part of the highway agency permit? Because some of our county parks are located off of our county road network.
I would say if it's owned by the county, then yes, this is where you would want to enforce that regulatory mechanism. I mean, assuming you have people walking their dogs around the parks, you'd want them to clean up after their pets so it doesn't, eventually drain into the watershed. So yes, to answer your question, you would enforce the regulatory mechanism there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. If there are no other questions, I think it's okay if we just jump back in, as long as that's okay with everybody. I don't think there's any more questions, so we're just going to hop back into it. We're going to move into the good housekeeping and infrastructure requirements of the permit. So the highway agency permit addresses illicit connections through the good housekeeping measures. So illicit connection means any physical or non-physical connection that discharges the following to a municipal separate storm sewer system, unless that discharge is authorized under a different permit. So domestic sewage, non-contact cooling water, processed wastewater, and other industrial waste, or any category of non-stormwater discharges that a permittee for the MS4 identifies as a source or a significant contributor of pollutants. Illicit connections often show as illicit discharges at your outfalls. Litter pickup program. All permittees must develop a litter pickup program that includes roadside cleanup of trash and debris and regular collection of refuse from litter and recycling receptacles, including those located at rest areas. You must maintain records of roadside cleanups and estimates of the total amount of trash and debris collected. Okay, street sweeping. Sweeping streets provides more than just aesthetic benefits. It keeps dirt, debris, and litter out of the stormwater system where it would otherwise pollute the watershed. It helps alleviate flooding from clogged storm drains and can help to reduce the frequency of catch basin cleanings. This requirement was not changed from the last permit. You're only responsible for sweeping your roadways that you own and operate. While these are the minimum requirements, the permittee must sweep more frequently as necessary to eliminate recurring problems. So first we have quarterly street sweeping. So the permittee shall sweep at a minimum of once every 3 months, all segments of limited access highways, which includes ramps and parking areas that have storm drain inlets or discharge directly to surface water. Triannual street sweeping. The permittee shall sweep at a minimum of once every 4 months all segments of streets, ramps, and parking areas that have storm drain inlets or discharge directly to surface water, but are not considered limited access highways. Annual street sweeping. That's sweeping at a minimum once a year. All segments of streets, ramps, and parking areas that do not have storm drain inlets or discharge directly to surface water. So on the left here, we have a photo of a rest area parking lot with inlets that discharge directly to surface water. So this needs to be swept 3 times a year under the highway agency permit. On the right, we have a photo of a limited access highway, which needs to be swept 4 times a year under the permit. Streets, ramps, and parking areas that are owned and operated by the permittee, but do not have storm drain inlets or discharge directly to surface water only need to be swept once a year. So real quick, let's just talk about the difference between storm drain inlets and catch basins. The storm drain inlet is the top grate that you can walk or drive over, and if it's along the curb, it includes that curbside opening. We consider the inlet to be the parts that you can see on the surface. The catch basin is below the surface, typically straight below the inlet, but sometimes further down the pipe where it catches any debris that falls through the grate. Here are 2 photos to show the difference between storm drain inlets and catch basins. The picture on the left shows an inlet that needs some cleaning, labeling, and retrofitting, as it's missing the bar along the curb opening there. And on the right, the inlet grate has been removed, allowing you to see the catch basin underneath. This one has some leaves and trash in there, which should be cleaned out as well. So storm drain inlets, there's a few things to keep in mind. First, they need to have appropriate labels to indicate that they drain to waterways. Newer inlets have permanent wording cast into the structure itself, like the photo on the bottom shows. But if it's an older model inlet that doesn't have this, you can attach a button to it, like the one above that says no dumping. Otherwise, you can paint a message with a stencil or get creative with an artistic design to convey the same message. All permittee-owned storm drain inlets must be retrofitted by the end of the permit cycle, which is by the end of 2029 for highway agencies. Keep in mind, you don't need to replace the inlets necessarily. You just need to add a bolt-on plate across the curb opening of the old style structures like the one you see in the top right. If you are installing a new storm drain, then you are required to use a new style inlet structure that complies with the NJDOT design for bicycle safety. New storm drain installations must have a corresponding catch basin or other BMP designed for solids collection. It can be directly below the inlet or downstream of the new storm drain inlet, as long as it's prior to the discharge to surface water. Exemptions for this condition include storm drains built on bridges or culverts, or when additional hydraulic losses will result in unavoidable adverse impacts. So that's about it for storm drain inlets. Let's talk about the inspection and maintenance of storm drain inlets and catch basins. So for inlets, these inspections can be done by driving to each inlet and just hopping out of the truck if trash, leaves, branches, or other debris needs to be removed, or if you see signs of damage. For this reason, we require that all permittees inspect all storm drain inlets every year. For catch basins, this involves a little bit more work. The inspector needs to get out of the truck, look down inside with a flashlight, or maybe lift the grate to see if the catch basin needs cleaning. If the highway agency operates or maintains more than 2,500 catch basins, the requirement is to inspect a minimum of 20% of the total every year. That's on a rotation, so that by the end of the permit cycle, all catch basins have been inspected. If the highway agency operates or maintains less than 2,500 catch basins, then they must be inspected annually. When it comes to catch basin cleaning, please check the manufacturer's recommendations first. The EPA also has a guidance document where they advise removal of materials where the sump pit becomes 40% full. So just keep that in mind. Okay, moving on to outfall inspections. For highway agencies, the requirement is to inspect a minimum of 20% of the total amount of outfalls that you have every year on rotation, so that all outfalls are inspected by the end of the permit cycle. The department offers outfall inspection forms that are on our webpage to document your findings. These inspections must include checking the overall structural integrity of the outfall, clogging, and instances of stream scouring and illicit discharges. So the next two slides will focus on scouring and illicit discharges. Starting with stream scouring, this can present as gouging out of the stream bank, undermining the outfall structure. Scouring erodes soils, clogs stream beds, and ruins habitats. When performing inspections, note if the soil is eroding away around the outfall and if stabilization is necessary. And just so it's understood, scouring inspections are required for all outfalls, not just those that discharge to streams. All reports of stream scouring must be inspected within 30 days, and confirmed cases need to be remediated within 12 months of discovery, unless the department approves an alternative timeline. The department has a form available on our webpage to document stream scouring cases. Illicit discharge detection and elimination. When you're inspecting outfalls, illicit discharges, look for instances of dry weather flow, which means a flow coming from the outfall 72 hours after a rain event. Other indicators include foam, turbidity, colored or overly fragrant discharges, and the presence of sanitary waste items. All reports of illicit discharges must be inspected within 30 days, and confirmed cases need to be remediated within 12 months of discovery. All permittees need to use the department's illicit discharge form and upload it with the annual report. All right, moving on to MS4 conveyance systems. Stormwater conveyance systems include any man-made features that convey stormwater. This typically means pipes, ditches, swales, and concrete drainage channels. This also includes cases where the structure below the inlet does not have a sump and therefore isn't a catch basin. Those situations should also be treated as conveyance and maintained as such. This is not a new permit condition for any MS4 permittee, but what is new is what you need to describe your inspection and maintenance program in your SP3 and cover it during annual training of the staff who did this work. We don't specify in the permit exactly when you should do inspections and maintenance, since there's a lot of variation in conveyance systems. So just tailor your program to best suit your system, and the department has guidance available if you need it. So far we've talked about inspecting storm drain inlets, catch basins, outfalls, and conveyance systems. These are the most common components of stormwater infrastructure, but we know there are other features our permittees use, so we created this catch-all condition. It applies for anything else you use to manage stormwater, things like basins, MTDs, etc. For anything that falls in this category, explain what it is and define the conditions that warrant cleaning and maintenance per the approved maintenance plans. If an approved plan is not available, you can create one by following the department's best management practice manual or maintenance guidance, both available on our website. If the feature in question is not included in our BMP manual or guidance materials, conduct inspections at least 4 times a year and after each rainstorm exceeding 1 inch of total rainfall. If any of the infrastructure is found to not be functioning properly, maintenance and repairs must be done no later than 90 days from discovery. If you need any assistance, of course, you can always contact your MS4 case manager to help you or put you in touch with our stormwater engineering group to do inspections and maintenance to point you in the right direction. Okay, moving on to herbicide application management. If you use herbicides to kill weeds, the SPC must ensure that they're being applied properly to prevent it from being washed into waterways and causing erosion from devegetation. Avoid spraying herbicides on or near storm drain inlets and on steep slopes, and only spray in areas where it's unsafe or impossible to mow. When spraying around structures like telephone poles, keep it within a 2-foot radius. Excess de-icing material management. The management of excess de-icing material is not related to how you store your salt supply at the maintenance yard. We'll talk about this proper storage later. This condition is aimed at cleaning up the little piles that are sometimes accidentally left behind in parking lots or along roadways where the driver starts up or stops the spreader. Within 72 hours after a storm event, please check where your spreaders have worked to clean up any piles you find. This way, the materials don't wash into nearby waterways. Roadside vegetative waste management. Grass clippings, dead leaves, and tree branches that get into the MS4 have the potential to clog the conveyance system and cause flooding. These materials also increase the levels of nutrients and total suspended solids in the receiving waters, which may result in harmful algal blooms and interfere with the aquatic habitat. This permit condition is intended to ensure that your staff are handling this type of vegetative waste in a way that keeps it out of the stormwater system. For example, you may choose not to bag grass clippings. It's okay to leave them in place. If you collect or clean up the vegetative waste, explain how you keep materials out of the stormwater system. Okay, moving on to tree replacement management. This permit condition comes into play when you're removing healthy trees from your highway agency property. These details listed on the slide are in the permit, but depending on the size of the healthy trees that are removed, you'll replace it with one or more trees. Removed trees are required to be replaced within 1 year of removal. There are a series of exemptions to this permit condition. For example, if a tree is considered a hazard, you may remove it without needing to replace it. Hazard trees are trees that are diseased, infested by insects, dead, or dying. It's also fine to remove trees that obstruct traffic signs, pedestrian walkways, or safe passage of vehicles. And if you have a concern about the condition of a tree and an arborist declares that it's a threat, those are fine to remove too. This condition only comes into place when you're trying to remove perfectly healthy trees. Roadside erosion control. Roadside erosion can cause sedimentation of receiving waters and stormwater infrastructure and can pose a public safety concern. For this reason, erosion inspections are required along all roadways, ramps, and parking lots you own or operate. You must have a roadside erosion control program in place, regardless of whether all roads within your facility are curbed or not. Erosion checks can be done while performing other stormwater inspections. If problems are identified, the department allows 3 months to address it unless another time frame is authorized. Outdoor refuse containers and dumpsters. The permit team must ensure that refuse containers and dumpsters that are outdoors or exposed to stormwater are managed as follows. They must always be covered with a tarp, lid, or under a permanent structure to prevent the contact of waste materials with stormwater unless actively being filled or emptied. And they must be leak-proof to prevent the discharge from the contents of the container. Temporary demolition containers or containers that hold large bulky items like furniture do not need to be leak-proof as long as they do not contain waste. Litter receptacles and refuse containers at industrial facilities authorized to discharge stormwater under a valid NJIPD's permit do not fall under this condition. So we have another moment to take a quick break here. And when we return, I'll hand it over to another member of our group to continue the presentation. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself. whatever works for you. Thank you guys.
Hi, Hannah. I had a quick question.
Okay.
For the illicit discharge, you said that permit permittees have to use the inspection form that the DEP has created.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. And that's the only form, inspection form that we have to use? Do we have to use the stream the stream scouring form as
So it,
well?
so it is kind of silly. So for our stream scouring, you don't have to use the form that we provide, but for the illicit discharge, you do.
Okay,
And
got
it
it.
could all be found on our website.
Got it. Yes, I've found them before. I'm planning to use both, but just checking.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So there is no like required de-icing training. It's just you are required to train your employees on de-icing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, okay. I thought there was something in the permit that required like an annual like online training that is provided by the DEP. That's inaccurate.
No, yes, no, you're just required to train your employees adequately on the de-icing procedures that are in the permit.
Okay, okay. That's fine. And while I've got you, just had one more quick question. When it comes to outfalls, one of the things that I'm experiencing, being the new stormwater pollution coordinator appointed last year, is outfalls as far as who owns the outfalls. So there's certain instances, being in Middlesex County, where we have county roads and then the systems then convey into a municipal system, and the discharge point is actually after the municipal discharge is actually discharged at an outfall that's after the municipal conveyance systems. So who identifies as the owner of the outfall? Is that the municipality? Is that the county? If it's, sometimes we have systems that go into site developers who then, detain the water and then ultimately, let it go at the proper rate of flow to a discharge point. And I would guess that would be the outfall in that case, because I know the outfall is anywhere where it discharges to the waterway. So can you provide some clarity on that? How do we determine who's the ultimate responsible party for an outfall?
Yeah, so that's a good question. If the outfall is located in the municipality, then the municipality would consider it their outfall. What you would do, especially in terms of mapping, wherever your system connects to the municipal system, you would just put an interconnection point there. And that way we know that flow is coming from your system, it goes to municipal, and then they take it from there and they discharge it at their outfall. So that would not be considered your outfall.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
No problem.
Hello, I am Louisa Lubiak, and I'm the MS4 case manager for Hudson, Hunterdon, Mercer, and Gloucester counties. Let's continue the presentation with maintenance yard requirements, followed by training requirements, and then we'll move into mapping assistance. As the stormwater program coordinator, you know what? I am forgetting to equipment, materials, and supplies. Ancillary operations include places like fleet or maintenance shops, impound yards, permanent and mobile fueling locations, salt and sand storage locations, snow disposal areas, etc. Okay. Right. Little technical difficulties here. Maintenance yards and ancillary operations. There are specific BMPs that must be implemented at each maintenance yard and ancillary operation. So let's go through them now. Site inspections. Usually, DPW or maintenance supervisors will designate someone to inspect each yard or will do this themselves. The inspector will note the conditions and document any work that is done or needs to be done to fix problems. Inventory list. Keep a list of all materials and machinery that are exposed to stormwater since they are potential sources of pollutants. Container labels and storage. Label all containers so they are clean and easy to read. Protect containers from being damaged or spilled, making sure they are tightly closed when not in use. Containers stored outside should be covered and set on a spill platform, clean pallet, or in an area graded or bermed to prevent stormwater run-through. Spill kits. Keep a spill kit near any liquid transfer areas and make sure it's protected from the elements. Be sure to use dry cleaning method only, for example, kitty litter or sawdust, and sweep it up for proper disposal afterwards. Bulk liquid storage. Some of you may have above ground tanks of fuel, used motor oil, or liquid de-icers. Be sure to surround new and existing petroleum storage tanks with a secondary containment barrier, such as a spill containment dike, to contain any drips and spillage. This is preferable over just a double wall tank, as the secondary containment area is intended to capture spills during operations. And although not required for existing liquid de-icing and anti-icing tanks, be sure to include a secondary containment barrier when installing any new brine storage tanks. Fueling and other bulk liquid operations. During operations, be sure to use drip pans below hose and pipe connections and block any nearby storm drain inlets. Don't delay repairs or replacement of broken fueling equipment. Post signs prominently in the fueling station to include the specific language outlined in your permit. We have a sign template on our MS4 webpage. You can copy it if you like. Discharge of stormwater from secondary containment. When you empty the stormwater from the collection areas surrounding the tank, be sure to dispose of it properly. If you have determined that it's clean, you can just open the valve and let the stormwater flow out. If it appears contaminated, or if you are not sure, haul it off site for proper disposal. If the contents inside the tank are clear, you may not be able to determine if any got mixed into the stormwater, so assume it is contaminated and haul it off site for disposal. Vehicle and equipment maintenance. Perform these activities indoors whenever possible. If you must work outdoors, use portable tents and drip pans and work in areas far from storm drains or block any nearby storm drain inlets. Wash wastewater containment. Wastewater tanks need to be certified each year by a New Jersey licensed engineer. Underground tanks and pipes must be checked for leaks every 3 years, and the visible portion should be checked before every use. Check the capacity and pump out prior to reaching 95% tank capacity, and stop use immediately if repairs are needed. Report spills immediately to the NJDEP hotline and properly dispose of pump out water. Salt and other granular de-icing and anti-icing material storage. These materials must be stored in a permanent structure and in a way that minimizes exposure to rain, snow, and stormwater runoff. If you don't have a door on the structure, that's okay. Just be sure to keep the materials from overflowing beyond the protection of the storage structure. Sweep up any tracked or spilled materials after loading and unloading. Aggregate material, wood chips, and finished leaf compost storage. Store these materials at least 50 feet from surface water bodies, storm drain inlets, ditches, and other stormwater conveyance channels. Use a 3-sided storage bay, dikes, berms, hay bales, sandbags, and/or grading to minimize stormwater runoff and run-on. Storing these materials is fine, and finished materials may be stored on site indefinitely. However, if your site processes compost or does chipping, grinding, screening, or size reducing of wood waste or yard trimmings, you'll need an industrial stormwater permit for these activities. Construction and demolition waste, wood waste, and yard trimming storage. Store these materials at least 50 feet from surface water bodies, storm drain inlets, ditches, and other stormwater conveyance channels. Use 3-sided storage bays, dikes, berms, hay bales, sandbags, and/or grading to minimize stormwater run-on and runoff. Again, if your site processes compost or does chipping, grinding, screening, or size reducing of wood waste or yard trimmings, you'll need an industrial stormwater permit for these activities. Cold patch asphalt storage. This material must be stored indoors or stored on an impervious surface covered with a waterproof material and contained to prevent stormwater contamination. Street sweepings and storm sewer cleanout material storage. Keep these materials in a leak-proof container or stored on an impervious surface and covered with a waterproof material and contained to prevent materials from contaminating stormwater. Materials may not be stored longer than 6 months, or the site would need to apply for a solid waste permit. Scrap tires. Store scrap tires in a covered container or enclosure. If a covered container or enclosure is not available, tires may be stored on an impervious surface and covered with a waterproof material. Inoperable vehicles or equipment. The designated storage area must be at least 50 feet from storm drain inlets. Use tents, covers, and drip pans under leaking vehicles and check them during monthly site inspections. And finally, wood waste recycling and leaf composting permit. As we mentioned on a previous slide, storage of wood waste, leaves, and compost is still covered under the MS4 permits. However, all composting, chipping, grinding, screening, or size reducing activities, even if it is just once a year, are not covered under MS4 permits and require a separate industrial stormwater permit called the Wood Waste Recycling and Leaf Composting General Permit. If you are performing any of these activities at any of your sites, please reach out to your MS4 County case manager to determine if you're eligible for coverage under the WRC permit, or if it requires an individual industrial stormwater permit. You can also visit the link on the slide for more information. Training requirements. As the Stormwater Program Coordinator, you are responsible to make sure everyone is getting the right training at the right time. You are also responsible for making sure training records are kept to demonstrate compliance with the training requirements. Let's go through each type of training requirement. Stormwater Program Coordinator training. Yes, this is the training we're doing right now. We developed this training to make sure that the permit is interpreted and implemented correctly and consistently throughout the state. All Stormwater Program Coordinators are required to attend this training once every permit cycle, so about every 5 years. You are welcome to attend more frequently than this if you want a refresher, and you may also invite other staff who work in your stormwater program who want to attend. During training sessions, we will be monitoring attendance and keeping records to make sure the SPC for every highway agency has been trained. If you change jobs or retire, someone at your agency needs to let us know who will replace you within 30 days. Your replacement must attend the next available live session. We plan to hold them twice each year. We suggest new SPCs watch the recorded training session posted on the MS4 website as an introduction to the requirements. For annual employee training, the SPC is responsible for conducting or coordinating annual training for their staff, including contractors, on stormwater-related job duties. The required training topics for highway agencies are listed here on the slide. New staff must receive training within 3 months of commencement of duties, then annually after that. Not everyone needs to be trained on every topic. Just make sure the people who are doing the work related to the topic are getting the appropriate training. The only topic that applies to everyone is a review of the most current stormwater pollution prevention plan. You most likely don't have a training department, so a discussion of these topics should be conducted each year, led by the most knowledgeable person you have on each topic. For example, street sweeping training should probably be conducted by the DPW director. If you have a code enforcement officer, that person may cover the regulatory mechanisms. This can be done in a group setting or one-on-one in the field, in the office, or on the computer, however you see fit. The SPC is responsible for ensuring that all required training is held and all appropriate records are kept in accordance with the permit. De-icing and anti-icing material application training. With the 2025 permit renewal, you are now required to develop a training program on the application of de-icing and anti-icing materials to make sure that all individuals, including employees, contractors, consultants, vendors, or volunteers that apply de-icing and anti-icing materials on your agency's roadways, ramps, and parking areas, complete the de-icing and anti-icing material application training at least once per year. The training should emphasize procedures specific to stormwater pollution prevention, as this training is about more than just the layout of routes and the operation of machinery. Make sure you document the training received by staff, including each participant's name, title, signature, dates of training, and instructors' names, and keep these records on file in your SP3. Also, make sure that external contractors, consultants, and vendors are properly trained by requiring compliance with the training detailed in your SP3 as a condition of the contract. Stormwater management design reviewers. The SPC must ensure that those engineers who review and approve designs for major development projects on behalf of the highway agency attend the department's Stormwater Management Design Reviewer training, which we call SWMDR. The purpose of the training is to ensure that projects are designed in accordance with the rules, so that once a project has been constructed, there is minimal impact on stormwater quality and runoff quantity or flooding. This is a technical course which will cover the most current stormwater management rules, municipal stormwater management plans, municipal stormwater control ordinances, mitigation plans, and the department's BMP manual. This course is approximately 12 hours in length, broken up over 4 half-days, and is required every 5 years. The department has a list of past course attendees and certification dates, so you can check the status of your agency's engineers. If there is an amendment to the stormwater management rules, additional training may be required. If the department determines that training sessions are necessary, engineers must attend within 12 months of adoption of any amendments. Rule amendment training sessions will be announced by the department on the website and via email to all SPCs and to engineers who have attended previous SWMDR courses. If you have attended SWMDR and your email address changes, please let us know. MS4 infrastructure map. All highway agencies should have already mapped and submitted their stormwater outfall pipes by December of 2020 and submitted a stormwater facilities map by January of 2023 as required by the 2020 permit. This map included permittee-owned or operated stormwater facilities such as storm drain inlets constructed after January 1st, 2020, stormwater management basins, groundwater discharge points, manufactured treatment devices, green infrastructure, and property boundaries of maintenance yards, ancillary operations, rest areas, service areas, roadways, and thoroughfares. With the 2025 permit renewal, highway agencies will now need to map all of their owned or operated stormwater infrastructure. This means mapping everything that collects, treats, or conveys stormwater, including interconnections, manholes, stormwater conveyances, pump stations, and streets, ramps, parking areas, and thoroughfares. This also includes the mapped property boundaries of rest areas, maintenance yards, and other ancillary operations. Since highway agency permittees should already have their outfall pipe and stormwater facilities mapping data, the MS4 infrastructure map requirement for this permit shouldn't be a huge lift. All permittees must submit the MS4 infrastructure map electronically to the department by January 1st, 2028. Electronically does not mean a PDF sent via email. It means submitting georeferenced shapefiles, geodatabases, AutoCAD files, or an Excel spreadsheet with georeferenced location information. ArtMint has a free mapping tool and can provide ArcGIS online licenses for free to any interested permittee. If the DEP mapping tool is used, data submittal will be automatic. If the department's tool is not used, files will need to be uploaded via NJDEP Online. The infrastructure map must be reviewed annually or more frequently as necessary and updated to include the location or attributes of any new or newly identified MS4 infrastructure. The map must also be posted on a dedicated stormwater webpage when it is complete. A map in PDF format will suffice, but we've seen some permittees include a link to an interactive stormwater map as well. It's important to note that we require that all permittees include certain attributes in the electronic data that is submitted. We'll go through each stormwater feature and the required attributes. Outfalls. The required attributes that must be included in your data are the type of outfall, such as piped or open channel, and the name of the receiving surface water body that the outfall is draining to, such as the Delaware River or any other river or tributary. If your outfall drains to a ditch, an infiltration basin, or groundwater, then it is not considered an MS4 outfall and should not be included in this layer. These points would be mapped as a groundwater discharge point instead. Groundwater discharge points. The required attribute that must be included in your data is the type of groundwater discharge point. The two most common types are a constructed infiltration BMP, such as an infiltration basin or a sump inlet, and an overland flow area. Interconnections. The required attributes that must be included in your data are the type of interconnection, such as a pipe or open channel, and the upstream and downstream entities. For example, if your system discharges into a neighboring municipality, then the upstream entity is you, and the downstream entity is the municipality, and vice versa if you receive stormwater discharge from another MS4 system. Storm drain inlets. The required attributes for storm drain inlets are pretty straightforward. We ask for type of inlet, such as a combination inlet, grate inlet, etc., whether there is a catch basin present, if it's labeled, and if it's been retrofitted. For catch basin, label, and retrofitting, these can just be a simple yes or no. Manholes. We do not ask for any attributes regarding manholes, so all we're looking for is a point on your map. Conveyance. The required attributes that must be included in your data are the type of conveyance feature, such as a pipe or a ditch, and the direction of flow. This should be presented as cardinal or ordinal directions, and you can either spell out the words or include the lettered abbreviations. Please submit this as a line layer. Pump stations. Similar to manholes, we do not ask for any attributes regarding stormwater pump stations, so all we're looking for is a point on your map. Stormwater management measures. The required attribute that must be included in your data is a type of stormwater management method. Stormwater facilities, such as stormwater management basins, manufactured treatment devices, green infrastructure, etc., would be mapped in this layer. Also included would be any other practice, technology, process, program, or method used to control or reduce stormwater runoff and associated pollutants. Streets, ramps, parking areas, and thoroughfares. They should be mapped as line features and do not require any associated attribute data to be collected. Property boundaries of rest areas, maintenance yards, and other ancillary operations. These should be mapped as polygon layers, and we are asking for the type of maintenance yard or ancillary operation. For example, we would want to know if it is a rest area, maintenance yard, compost facility, salt storage yard, etc. Now we'll go into the ArcGIS online mapping tool. Now that we've gone through the mapping requirements, let's move on to discuss how the department has created tools to help permittees complete their mapping requirements, starting with our free mapping tool. The department previously created a geodatabase template, an associated data dictionary for 7 stormwater feature classes required to be mapped in the 2020 Highway Agency permit. We realize that not every permittee operates in the same manner or has the same technological capabilities. So this geodatabase template was made available over several different collection methodologies to suit the needs of all permittees. This includes a shared editing map with ArcGIS Online that can be accessed on desktop computers, smartphones, or tablets. We also created a downloadable geodatabase template for permittees who are familiar with and currently using ArcMap or ArcPro with their own licenses. We are working to update and modify the ArcGIS Online shared editing map and the geodatabase template to account for all the new stormwater features required to be mapped for the permit renewal. As I mentioned, the first method created was a shared editing map in ArcGIS Online. The program allows users to collect points and associated information on a tablet, a smartphone, or a desktop computer. The department secured a pool of free-to-use licenses for our permittees, and they are available upon request. Additionally, if any permittees already have their own ArcGIS license and would like access to our shared editing map, we are able to invite you to edit the map, so please reach out to your county case manager to get that set up. Data that is collected will be stored in our database and can be viewed publicly and downloaded at any time. The desktop version of ArcGIS Online is a great way to electronically digitize points from the comfort of your office using an old PDF or tax map. Let's quickly walk through how to access our shared editing map in ArcGIS Online. Your first step will be to navigate to ArcGIS Online using your web browser. This is what the splash screen looks like. Next, sign in using the username and password assigned to you with your department-provided license or your own ArcGIS Online license, if you have one, and we're invited to the editing group. You will then need to access the Groups tab once you have signed in to see a list of all maps that you have access to. This is where you will be able to view and then make edits to the MS4 infrastructure editing map. Within the Groups tab, in the box for the NJDEP Municipal Stormwater Mapping content, click the View Details button to access the MS4 infrastructure editing map. This will likely be the only group that you have access to with one of our free licenses. Once you click on the View Details button, you will be brought to this screen, where you will need to scroll down to find the list of content in the group. Once you scroll down, click on the View All Group Content button at the bottom, which will bring you to this screen, where you will find the MS4 infrastructure editing map. Then click the link to the MS4 infrastructure editing map. The main page of this map is where you are able to see details along with other information regarding the map. To start editing, you will open the map by clicking on the Open in Map Viewer button. This is what the map looks like when you first open it. As you scroll in, you will start to see data points populate. The map is interactive, so if you see points already mapped and are interested in viewing them, you can click on a point and a box will appear, detailing the point's associated attributes. I want to point out some of the important buttons here on the main map screen. 1, you can click the magnifying glass in the lower right corner. Use the search function to find your current location or to search for a specific address, and the search function will zoom you right into that location on your map. 2. This button on the top left-hand side that looks like a stack of squares will show you the different layers that are currently on the map for viewing. Number 3, click the 4 squares on the left-hand side if you want to change the base map on the map. Typically, an imagery base map is the most useful, especially if you are plotting points using a tax map or knowledge from previous field visits. When you are ready to start mapping data, click the Edit button on the lower right-hand side. It looks like a pencil and a paper. Now I'll do a quick step-by-step walkthrough of how to plot a point. To begin, you will click the Edit button to start mapping. This will open a menu on the right side, where you will be able to choose the correct feature class type that you are trying to map, like outfall or inlet, etc. Scroll until you find the correct stormwater facility type and then the correct county. For example, if you're trying to plot an inlet within Atlantic County, you would click here. Currently, the tool has feature classes for culverts, basins, outfalls, inlets, etc., and is being updated to account for the changes to the mapping requirements in both the Tier A and public complex renewals. The icons are different for each feature class. Once you click the correct feature class, this will bring up a crosshair with the point, and you will click on the correct location on the map to plot the point. The menu on the right-hand side will change to display the different attributes you can fill out for the designated point. This will include discharge code, facility name, and others that are specific to each feature class, like type of outfall, or if a storm drain inlet is labeled. Most of these attributes will have drop-down boxes, so it is easier than entering manually. Once you have finished adding all attributes, click the blue Create button at the bottom of the menu. If something is incorrect before you click Create, you are able to make changes or discard your edits entirely by hitting the back button at the top of the menu. If you realize after you hit Create that there is an error in the point or attribute, click on that point on the map, which will highlight it in blue. This will open a box showing all of the point's associated attributes, and you can then make changes by clicking the Edit button at the top. However, we don't allow users to delete points to avoid accidentally deleting other people's data. If you plotted a point in error and need to delete it, please add a comment telling us to delete it, and we can take care of that on our end. As you can see, the point has successfully been plotted where we wanted. Repeat this process as many times as necessary to map all of your stormwater facilities. As I mentioned, our shared editing map can be accessed on desktop computers and mobile devices as well. The app used for collecting points through ArcGIS Online on a mobile device is called ArcGIS Field Maps and can be accessed through both the Google Play or Apple Store. Some of you may know the previous versions as Collector, but Esri has since transitioned to using this new Field Maps app. The app itself is free to download and use, and once a license is obtained from the department, you can begin mapping. This method is the best way to collect new data points out in the field. Once downloaded, the user can collect points by using the mobile device's GPS or by manually placing points using the background aerial. When a point is placed, a list of descriptive attributes will show up and can be filled out. This helps in determining things such as the type of basin or MTD and the ownership of the facility, which is important when conducting maintenance. Most fields have drop-down menus that make it easy to fill out and less time-consuming than typing out each attribute in the field. Let's do a quick walkthrough of how to log into Field Maps to access our shared editing map. When you open the Field Maps app, you will be prompted with two sign-in options. Choose Sign In with ArcGIS Online and use the username and password assigned to you with your department-provided license or your own ArcGIS Online license, if you have one and were invited to the editing group. When signed in, you will see a list of all maps that you have access to, which may only be the MS4 infrastructure editing map. Once you're in the tool, this is what the main interface looks like. I want to point out some of the important buttons here on the main map screen. Field Maps uses your mobile device's GPS to position you and allow you to plot data. The top of the screen will show your GPS accuracy. You will need an accuracy of at least 30 feet to plot a point, but the smaller this number gets, the better accuracy you will have when plotting points. You can zoom in or out on the map to change the GPS accuracy. This light blue arrow on top will help orient you to north if you'd like. You can use magnifying glass in the top right to search for a particular location, and the search function will zoom you right into that location on your map. This button on top that looks like a stack of squares will show you the different layers that are currently on the map for viewing. Click the three dots in the top right corner if you want to change the base map on the map. Typically, an imagery base map is the most helpful. You can also use this menu to see the legend, edit multiple points at a time, or share the map with others. When you are ready to start mapping, click the blue plus button in the bottom right corner. Now I'll do a quick step-by-step walkthrough of how to plot a point. To start, you will click the blue plus button in the bottom right corner to begin mapping. This will bring you to the different feature class options for the various types of stormwater infrastructure, such as basins, outfalls, or inlets. You will need to scroll until you find the correct stormwater facility type and then the correct county. You can get to the correct feature class by scrolling down, or you can search for what you are looking for using the filter option. Once you click on the appropriate feature class, the app will bring up a circle with crosshairs. You can drag this around to plot the point on the accurate location on the base map. When you are satisfied with the location of the point, click the blue Update Point button. You will then see the corresponding point has been added to the map and the symbology matches the feature class. For example, inlets currently plot as a gray circle with an I in the middle, and outfalls plot as a beige circle with an O in the middle. We'll then scroll through and fill out the appropriate attributes. Click on an attribute to start. So if we click on owner type, for example, the app will generate a drop-down menu of options for you to choose from, which makes the tool much easier and quicker to use in the field, rather than having to spend the time typing each attribute out manually. When you have filled out all required attributes, click Submit in the upper right corner. Way to go! You have plotted your first point. If you need to make changes to that point after it's been plotted, you can use the pencil button in the lower left corner. However, we don't allow users to delete points to avoid accidentally deleting other people's data. If you plotted a point in error and need to delete it, please add a comment telling us to delete it, and we can take care of that on our end. To plot your next point, simply click the blue plus button again and follow the same steps. The screenshots that you just saw on the previous slides were from an Apple device, so keep in mind that the interface may vary slightly depending on the device you are working on. Some buttons may appear slightly different, but the location of the buttons and functionality will all be the same. It may also help to make sure that you keep the app updated to account for any changes that Esri makes for the app itself. For users who are already using ArcMap or ArcPro, we developed a geodatabase that can be downloaded from our website. That geodatabase can be populated on the computer and submitted back to the department to meet the mapping requirements. Again, everything here has drop-down menus, making it easy to use. While the two previous options I showed you provide automatic electronic submission, you will need to upload your geodatabase files via NJDEP online, to satisfy the electronic submission requirement. In summary, NJDEP initially created a database and data dictionary for the stormwater infrastructure features required to be mapped by MS4 permittees. It is currently being updated to account for new mapping requirements in the 2023 Tier A, 2024 Public Complex, and 2025 Highway Agency permits. The data dictionary was made available over several different collection methodologies to suit the needs of all permittees. Existing data can be accessed via NJDEP Open Data. The department is willing to provide assistance in the form of in-person training and by answering any questions you may have. Please reach out if you need any assistance along the way. This completes this segment, and we will now stop for Q&A and take a bit of a break.
If there's no other questions, we are going to move on. My name is Gabby. I am the case manager for Union, Sussex, and Essex County. And next, we're going to go through the details of the watershed improvement plan. There are many water quality impairments and resulting TMDLs that affect waters in every town across the state. Some of the impairments can affect fish in aquatic biota, our drinking water, and the waters where many of us swim. Every summer, more lakes are found to have harmful algal blooms, aka HABs, because of poor water quality. Some of these waters have no other discharges into them other than stormwater runoff. The department is requiring that stormwater permittees develop or take part in regional development of a watershed improvement plan, also known as a WIP, to identify water quality and quantity problems affecting their waters and determine what improvements can be made to reduce their contributions. We do recognize that some sources of pollution and flooding are beyond our permittees' jurisdiction, such as farmland or county and state and federal properties, but this exercise will help identify those sources. Before going further into the requirements of the watershed improvement plan, let's look at our current water quality concerns within New Jersey. We'll first go through some impairments and how they are related to stormwater. But let's first start with what is a HUC 14. These are also referred to as subwatersheds. Here you can see the municipal boundary of Hamilton County in Atlantic County highlighted. Within the town, there are multiple subwatersheds depicted by the blue dotted lines. Following those blue dotted lines, you may see they almost never follow the municipal's boundary. This is common for many municipalities. Here you can see the subwatershed for the Great Swamp Creek below Route 206 highlighted. These subwater lines depict smaller areas of land that drain into a larger body of water, such as a stream, river, lake, bay, or estuary. These lines are defined by the natural drainage patterns of rivers and their tributaries. These subwatersheds are technically referred to as a HUC 14, short for Hydraulic Unit Code 14. The highlighted subwatershed of Great Swamp Creek will have a HUC 14 number as shown. This will be a 14-digit code unique for only this subwatershed within New Jersey. Before a TMDL is developed for a pollutant, it is likely that the pollutant and water body will be designated as impaired first. Every 2 years, New Jersey is required to submit a water quality assessment report under Section 303D of the Clean Water Act, describing the conditions of the water within the state. These reports include water quality information on rivers, lakes, estuaries, coastal waters, and analysis of the extent to which these waters are meeting the current water quality standards. Waters are assessed as impaired when a applicable water quality standard is not being attained. Impaired waters will require a total maximum daily load or an alternate restoration plan to reduce pollutant loadings and restore the water body. Listed here are the parameters related to stormwater that New Jersey waters are currently impaired for. Next up, we're going to talk about what is a TMDL. A TMDL is short for total maximum daily load. It is the calculation of maximum amount of pollutants allowed to enter a water body so that the water body will meet and continue to meet the water quality standards for that pollutant. A TMDL determines a pollutant reduction target and allocates load reductions necessary to the source of the pollutant. This will result in a report or a plan to address the pollutant parameters for that specific water body. Each pollutant causing a water body to be impaired or threatened is referred to as pollutant parameter. And typically, a TMDL is developed for each pollutant parameter for each affected water body. For example, if one water body is impaired or threatened by 3 pollutants, 3 TMDLs will be developed for the water body. However, in other cases, a single TMDL document may develop to address several water bodies / pollutant parameter combinations. Who is responsible for developing these TMDL documents? As a general matter, each state is responsible for developing TMDLs and submitting them to the EPA for approval. EPA then reviews under the Clean Water Act and either approves or disapproves the TMDL. On this slide, you can see a full list of the pollutant parameters related to stormwater that New Jersey has developed TMDLs for. You can also see that TMDLs have been developed for a majority of the subwatersheds in the state. The map here shows water quality impairment subwaters across the United States. Areas where there are water quality impairments but a TMDL has not been developed are represented in blue. Sorry for the misclick. Areas where TMDLs have been developed are represented in yellow. The green portions of the map represent areas where both a TMDL and an impairment are present. As you can see, at least a portion of every municipality in New Jersey has an impairment, a TMDL, or more than often both. It's very common for one subwatershed in New Jersey to be impaired for many parameters related to stormwater. Let's go back to our example of Great Swamp Creek below Route 206. There's a TMDL developed for total coliform to address shellfish in impaired waters. And this subwatershed is also impaired for both pH and nitrate. Here, I'm going to highlight some of the common pollutants related to stormwater in New Jersey, along with some of their sources. Wildlife, pet, and human waste contribute to bacteria pollutants such as fecal and total coliform and E. coli. So if you manage a restaurant, for example, you may want to keep an eye out for these parameters. Fertilizers, leaf litters, and other vegetative waste contribute to the increasing total phosphorus, nitrate, dissolved oxygen, and pH. This is why it is important to enforce certain good housekeeping measures, such as herbicide application management and vegetative waste management. Runoff from impervious surfaces, roadside erosion, and road salt and leaf litter also can contribute to the increase in TDS, TSS, and turbidity. Vehicles, asphalts, and building materials contribute to increase in metals, PCBs, and VOCs. And finally, deteriorating pipes can contribute to the increase in lead and copper in waterways. Here is an overview of the watershed improvement plan requirements. Each of these phases will be submitted through the Stormwater Document Submittal Service via New Jersey DEP Online. The department recognizes that the development of the WIP is a significant undertaking, so we will be available for guidance throughout the process. The development of the plan is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1, which is due by January 1st, 2028. The goal of this first phase is to inventory all stormwater-related information, which will be used to inform what is likely contributing to the water quality and quantity problems, and where improvements could be implemented, which then leads us to Phase 2. Phase 2, which is due by January 1st, 2029. The goal of the next phase is to evaluate the information that was gathered in Phase 1 to determine what potential improvement projects can be implemented for both quality and quantity risk concerns. And finally, Phase 3, which is due by December 1st, 2029. The goal of this phase is to select which of the potential quality and quantity improvement projects from Phase 2 you will implement, and on what schedule. So let's talk about Phase 1. I consider Phase 1 to be the gathering all the information stage. This is going to involve multiple staff members and is going to be closely related to the MS4 infrastructure map. That is also required to be submitted on the same date. This step will be adding a few more data sets to the MS4 infrastructure map that we discussed earlier, analyzing department available data related to stormwater and summarizing all these requirements into a narrative report. While collecting MS4 infrastructure data, permittees may want to consider collecting at the same time this additional data required by the watershed inventory report. This includes the drainage areas for each outfall or group of outfalls, the drainage areas for each interconnection, and the areas that are prone to MS4 related flooding. Next, you'll need to analyze and summarize the rest of the subwater information from the department's available data. This will include looking at the receiving water bodies, the water quality classifications for all receiving water bodies. This will show you if there are any FW2 non-trout, pinelands, or Category 1 streams within your subwatersheds. The TMDL and impairment by subwatersheds, which will show which pollutant is affecting which subwatershed. The impervious areas, which are within the permittee's watersheds. And optionally, permittees are encouraged to look at any additional NJIPTES regulated facilities within each watershed. All this collected, summarized, and analyzed data will begin to illustrate the connection between the water quality and quantity issues present upstream in your subwatersheds and may highlight potential areas where the improvement projects may be implemented. Permittees are encouraged to use New Jersey DEP open data to collect the required information for phase 1 of the WIP. As a reminder, the data that can be found through the department is receiving water bodies, water quality classifications, TMDLs and impairments, which has multiple different layers. You will need this information from all layers to get a full picture of what TMDLs areas in your subwaters look like. You will need the shellfish impaired waters, lake sheds, stream sheds, and stream sheds pre-2028. You can also use New Jersey DEP open data to get the impervious area of your county. If you search impervious surface, a layer for each county will appear. A link to New Jersey DEP open data is at the top of this slide, but you can also click the links above each specific layer to go directly to that data set. So, the Watershed Assessment Report Phase 2 is the session where you are looking for what will be created from phase 1. So this is identifying potential water quality and quantity improvement projects, charting TMDLs and impairments in each subwatershed. The report will also need to include an estimate of the reduction of pollutants and summary of feedback from public sessions, an estimate of funding needing, and a tentative implementation schedule. If you're wondering how to determine what types of projects to do to assess certain parameters, the department has created a WIP project matrix that can point you in the right direction. The matrix lists various projects that can be implemented, and with specific parameters, it helps address. It's an Excel spreadsheet, so you can even filter for parameters that you're aware of and will only show projects that address that parameter. A link will be included on this slide, but you can also find it on our WIP webpage. The permittee shall post the watershed assessment report on its dedicated stormwater webpage and announce a 60-day public comment period. The final plan will take the information presented in Phase 2 report, which was public noticed, and evaluate those public comments, the cost, funding, etc. We'll also identify which projects are to be implemented, including proposed timelines and the expected result. The report will need to include a summary of project locations and its expected load reductions. It will also include the rationale behind the chosen projects and plans to incorporate other regulatory requirements, implementation, schedule, and costs. The Watershed Improvement Plan will also need to be reviewed and updated when necessary based on the biannual review of revisions to the impairments of the permittee's water bodies based on the department's integrated report and any newly adopted TMDLs, as well as any other layer updates. Finally, we are preparing a WIP template including guidance materials for permittees to use. This way, all WIPs are developed statewide following the same format to make it easier for the public and the department to review and compare. We will share these materials as soon as they are finalized. Here's just a quick overall timeline of what developing a WIP will look like. You may decide now or after phase 1 mapping and inventory has been completed that you want to combine your improvement efforts with any of the following, such as towns, other MS4 permittees, or other types of NJIPTES permittees, and even other third-party groups such as watershed management groups. The collaboration is completely supported by the department. However, to ensure no one else speaks for you, any regional WIP collaboration would need to be endorsed in writing by each participant, and specifically state which parts of the HUC 14 the regional WIP will apply to, and what specific projects and responsibilities will be undertaken by each party. The regional WIP will need to have that extra level of detail to make sure there is no misunderstanding between entities and/or the department. As highway agencies, you are required to provide other MS4 permittees that discharge to shared subwatersheds information if they request it, such as MS4 interconnection locations and information regarding the ownership of specific stormwater infrastructure. Before jumping into the last few permit conditions, does anyone have any questions regarding the development of the WIP? If there's no other questions, I will continue on with the last few slides. The department will notify you if there's any additional permit requirements that your facility needs to adopt. This does not happen often. Such cases would result in minor modifications to the Master General Permit and would require the permittee to implement a new or enhanced best management practice. For optional measures, you are allowed to adopt and enforce any other measures to your facility's stormwater program that exceeds the requirements in the permit. For example, you may have an ordinance requiring all dumpsters on private properties to be covered, or you may have a problem that is unique to your area and that relates to stormwater that you want to address. When DEP or EPA staff come out for an audit or site inspection, they will be looking at your records to demonstrate compliance with each permit condition. Your job as the SPC is to have these records ready upon request. Be sure to keep copies of logs that record inspections, repairs, investigations, etc., related to the permittee compliance for at least 5 years. Every year between January 1st and May 1st, all permittees will report on the previous calendar year by accessing New Jersey DEP Online to submit their annual report. Highway agency permittees are also required to attach the major development project list for any major development projects that were approved within the calendar year. You must also attach all outfall inspection, stream scouring, and illicit connections forms to their annual report each year. If you are new to submitting an annual report and would like to see previous year submissions, just contact your MS4 County case manager and they will provide whatever reports you need. Most of you should already be familiar with New Jersey DEP Online, as this is a platform where you access your annual report each year. Some helpful tips that we have for New Jersey DEP Online: create your own New Jersey DEP Online account. You cannot finish a report that another user started. Contact your case manager if you are unable to complete the annual report. Report may be in progress by another user's account. Write down your password, username, and certification PIN accounts that are managed by New Jersey OIT. So if you forget your username or password, you will have to use the on-screen help function and someone from New Jersey DOT will contact you to help correct the issue. Please note that the certification PIN and password are two different pieces of information. Something that's new to New Jersey DEP Online with these 2 recent permit renewals is that permittees are now going to use the portal submit access. Permit renewals is that permittees are now going to use the portal to access the facility submittal service to submit all required permit documentations, including maps, SPPs, and WIP documents. We have some condensed information in the form of guides and an FAQ posted on the MS4 webpage if you get stuck. When you set up your account, please remember to keep your account information somewhere secure. The second document is a guide that walks you through the process of creating a New Jersey DEP Online account and submitting the annual report that you can continually reference after this presentation. The last link is a guide to using the document submittal service. This may be especially helpful since the document submittal service is new to the recent permit renewals. Use these guides as your first source for New Jersey DEP Online issues, but if you continue to have problems, please email your MS4 case manager. Thank you for your attention today. In order to receive a certificate of completion and be in compliance with the SPC training portion of the permit, you must complete this exit survey. Please be mindful when filling out your name on the exit survey, as it will appear how it is written on your certification. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute now.
Can you put the exit survey link in the chat?
Yes, hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
I can also, this is Hannah again, by the way. Hi, guys. I can also send an email to everybody later today with the link as well, if anyone has any issues with it. But I'm getting the link right now to put in the chat.
Hey, Hannah, this is Ed Cucci.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So this training was primarily concentrated on the R12 permit.
Yes.
Is there any future trainings coming up for SPCs that concentrate on R11 permits, public complexes?
We actually do have a training. We're going to send the invitation out either today or tomorrow. There's going to be one next week. And you should have gotten a email to RSVP to that. And if you didn't, I can send it to you.
Sure. Can you want me to drop my email in the chat?
No, I have it. It's okay.
Okay, thank you, Hannah.
No problem.
And to the SPC training recording, probably in a week, I need to edit it and get it up on our YouTube account, and it'll be posted probably within a week, and you can check on the Highway Agency webpage for the most up-to-date video. So it'll probably take me a week to get it up there.
Okay, thank you for that. There's a lot of information that was covered, so I'd like to be able to kind of go back and look at certain sections a little closer and just dive in a little deeper.
Sounds good. And if there's anyone else here that also works with Tier A's or public complexes and did not receive an email for the SPC training for that, and if you want to be part of it, just let me know and I'll send it to you guys.
Hi, Hannah. Yeah, I need to complete that training also. However, I'm going to be out of the office next week. Is that something you offer twice a year
Yeah,
as well?
we typically do multiple sessions a year.
Great. Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, once you guys finish the exit survey, and if you have no questions, you feel free to enjoy the rest of your day. If any other question pops up, please reach out to either the stormwater manager email or just reach out directly to your case manager and they can help you out. If you have any issues with the survey, let me know.
Is the the link that you sent, the one that says forms.office.com/
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to double check. I'm a paper and pencil guy. Sorry.
No, that's totally okay. Thank you guys again for your attention today. Otherwise not.
Hey, Hannah, I'm sorry. I had one more question for you.
Yeah.
So I know that the state offered funding for counties for mapping of MS4 infrastructure.
Mhm.
And we've we've applied for that, and we're working on that right now. Is there any, I understand if it's too early to say, but is there going to be any funding to assist with the WIP requirements that are coming down the road, or is that too early to say?
Well, the grant is really only for the MS4 infrastructure mapping and the green streets if you applied for that portion of the grant.
Yeah.
But considering that at least the first portion of the WIP is essentially an MS4 infrastructure map, it kind of overlays a
Right,
little
right.
bit.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Okay, okay. Understood. Right. You're kind of double dipping there right now.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Again, if you have no other questions and you filled out the survey, feel free to log off. Thanks again for your attention. We'll send out the certificates of completion within the next week or two. So just keep an eye out for that.